When I think about hiring a creative person in my team as well, I realize in the longer run, as the people who have been good in copywriting and storytelling are the great ones. People say storytelling and then copywriting is not a big tool, but I feel like if you're a great storyteller, you can be great. You can, you can be great visual prompter, or like AI creative designer, because it's all about these raw tools and this natural backgrounds knowledge of different departments that makes you craft that thing that has not been possible before. Happy. So I've been looking at your portfolio and look at like you've studied international business, but not creative tech, and you jump into this digital and AI. Like how did you end up into this world of creative?
Um, well, because I was always passionate about two things, and even as a student, so both the tech side as well as the creative side. So I hesitated when I did my studies between, I would say, three paths. First was the creative side, um, and the tech side, and then the business side. I end up, choosing the business side, and then but then at some point when I started my career, um, I started to work as an internship into a sort of into a French, a company that does, luggage, and I was in the design department and product department, so it was related to creativity. And and that happened, and the good thing is I went to China for a year and a half for that company, and then when I went back to France and to Paris, I finished my study and I said I want to keep and I want to start a career into into a creative environment. And I end up, starting my career in an agency, doing digital. So like, starting merging tech and creativity into one uh, environment. And then I moved into, like I end up like doing all my career so far in an agency side. And today, because of, the fact that the technology is um, um, basically blending more and more with the creative side, I I'm really into that sort of GenAI transformations that are happening, and I'm helping, the creatives, to push that side. We were at McCann. We started very early on, implementing those GenAI capabilities. Uh, so I partner with like, a bunch of creatives and also hired, some AI artists to join the agency. So even if I would say as a, I'm not a creative by, training, I, did my career like working with creative. Um, so I I would say that, I enjoy seeing those people, working. I see how they do it. And also I try, to influence or potentially, change the way they work by, introducing new tools or potentially, thinking about new ways of doing that. So I hope it answers a bit, it was a bit long, but I hope it answers, your your question about my profile and how I end up, here today and to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree. Like to be very honest, like let's suppose the person who is from I'm from a technical background and get into this, design side. So I think so having a different backgrounds always push you to be more of, more smarter and have to be more towards wiser in whatever you're making the decision on. So like if we specifically like Perry, if you look at you have been in McCann for a very long time. You have been in a very
Yes.
different roles. And what was that inflection point when you think about, like where digital went from being a department to being the center of your agency?
Well, I think it's just that at some point, so, like I said, I was very passionate about technology for a long, long time, and I work in sort of like technology, whether it was digital at first, web development, long time, and then I did a bit of social, with some management and all that, and then at some point, like with that, I think with like the revolutions that we see and the development of the GenAI, it basically accelerated the demand for everything related to technology. And the inflection points was like probably I would say 2 or 3 years ago, where this boom happened. um I started to say, okay, there is something that I really love for a long, long time. And I think I'm quite good at, understanding the technicality. And also, I've been, developing or coding as a sort of like passion on the side. So I said, maybe at some point I should like, change my path and maybe go into that directions and, center a bit more about an innovation role and just like potentially slightly put aside the social background, um, and let others handle that social side, and we focus on that innovation side that includes the GenAI capabilities and also the overall transformations about our job, whether it's on the creative side or whether it's on all the profiles that we have internally.
Okay, amazing. And just tell me, like you in Solenier, you launched in 2023, uh, uh, and then you been quiet for a few years, and then you get back, uh, bringing it back. Like, why was that? This is the right moment.
No, I mean, in my background, what I did, so I've been at McCann for 10 years. Um,
Yeah.
and I studied at McCann to build the social offer. That was my beginning and role. And on top of that, after some times, I wanted to rebuild a studio that was acquired by McCann Paris a long time ago that was called Soleil Noir. So that's what I did, is like relaunching that small interactive studio that was doing like digital experiences. And so a lot of stuff, in addition to the social part. And the last addition layer, that happened is when I think it was 3 years ago when, the, the Gen AI like capabilities like came. I had added a third layer that was like much more related to Gen AI. And I think that's, coming back to your point, that was the inflection point where I say, okay, I want to really focus on that, on technology and, on innovations. And, but it's only in Jan that really I shifted into that role. So I always, I was always at McCann, but on top of that, rebuilt that, Soleil Noir, um, studio that we have internally. So it's sort of like a team within the team, and also added, that third layer, third team that is really, which is the AI lab, really focusing on the Gen AI capabilities at McCann also. And lately is like, you know, changing my role to like a full, innovation role. Um, but coming back to your point, I think the inflection point was really in like three years ago when that, sort of like, technology was booming, and then everyone was like, okay, it's going to be big. It's going to have a lot of impact, at least on the creative industry. Um, and we should really um, put all our intention on that, or at least really experiment first, and then potentially use that into our ways of working.
Like you've been posting about a lot of AI tools. You've used a lot of AI tools. and and specifically when you talk, when you work with this big clients like L'Oreal, how did you decide, which tool you have to pick, and which is your good, like what's your decision processes?
Well, I mean, first is not just us in Paris. We, part of a big network of other McCann agencies. And also we, you know, been recently acquired by a holding company that's called Omnicom. So before that, we were part of a big holding company called IPG. IPG has been acquired by Omnicom. So the stack and the technology, it's a bit of both. I would say we have, stuff coming from that holding company, and they let us, have access to a, a variety of tools,
Okay.
and we can use it, we can test it. And also, we also like to test our own systems, our own platforms, our own, tools. So I spend a lot of time, like reviewing, reading, um, seeing what others are doing, like spending some time on Twitter and, on YouTube and all that, on LinkedIn. So trying to see where the industry is coming, where are like the hidden gems. Do a lot of like meetups with startups and, new platforms, or potentially also like big giant tech to understand, oh, what's the next model that is coming? What is the capabilities? And at the end of the day, what we're trying to evaluate is, well, the quality of the output, because what we deliver is like content. We build content, and we build ideas, and then ideas, then after the final output is a type of content. So we try to evaluate the quality. We're trying to evaluate, um, the use and how it's going to be easy to use. And then after that, yeah, there is also, I would say, a lot of discussions when it comes to the legal aspects, when it comes to, reviewing the platforms and the security. So there is a fun part, which is the evaluations, meeting the people, trying to understand, and, getting excited by a new platforms or new systems. And there is, I would say, a dark side, which is, oh, I really want to use that platforms, but then I would need to go through, all the specs and make sure, it's compliant with, our like ways of working. So I would say that that's how we work, but I tend to do a lot of those, um, meetings and, evaluations, and trying to, capture that. I was in Jan, I was at the CES in Vegas. I think it was also quite nice, to understand where the industry is going, uh, what are those like new and small startups, and potentially, meet new, new guys that brings, a lot of exciting new products.
Yeah. So like, Perry, are you the one who just, like, let's suppose scrolling the Twitter late nights and you find some product and you tried it tomorrow? Or are you the one who, took a lot of time to try new things?
I would say that I love to try and experiment.
Yeah.
Um, so I wouldn't say that, oh, I saw something, I'm gonna jump on it and just like try and go. But I'm always curious by, by design. So if I see something that I interested, at some point I'm gonna test it. So
Yeah.
what I do is we've got specific machines and then specific environment, so we can test it, and then we can have our first view of, is it good, is it not good, or I like it. And then after, once we like it, maybe we can have like further discussions. We can reach out to the vendors or to the provider, and then we can say, okay, I've tested your tool. It's really interesting, really cool. Can we have a demo? Can we have a discussion? And then we, start like having from like first discussion. And then if we see that there is a lot of potential because, other colleagues tested it and they quite like it, then we can start having like, real discussions when it comes to the legal aspects, when it comes to the security and the compliance. So what I'm saying is like, after we start to have like deep conversation that usually, are a bit more painful, and I would say less fun, that, testing the platforms and, really enjoying what we saw.
Yeah. How excited about you are about this state of AI? with every single day, new video models are coming, new image models are coming. Like, are you?
I mean, I usually say that I think it's the best. I mean, I'm living it's like living in a dream, you know. It's like
Yeah, true.
I mean, every couple of months you have new release coming, you have new models coming, they have new capabilities. So you can think you can have that, you can see it two ways. Either you think that is too overwhelming because you know every day there is a new toy in the shop in a sort of way. But I tend to be like very exciting and optimistic. So I I like that. I like the fact that it goes fast and you know every couple of months what you thought was true is untrue because there is a new capabilities coming.
Yeah,
And also what I like is if I take one example, for example, related to, you know, creativity and GenAI, um, you know, the first like platforms that we had was very, you know, chatbot sort of systems. You know, you prompt, you get an image. But then after it started to evolve into a node-based, you know, systems where, you know, now it's like creatives are like being able to build like complex workflow with like different components and it's not Gen AI and all that. But it happened in a very fast way. So they needed to adapt and change and all that. I I think it's very exciting. So you don't know what in like 1 year time or 2 years time how those guys are going to work. Maybe it's going to be completely different. It's not going to be node based, but maybe it's going to be like fully agentic and they just talk and then the system does, you know, the images. I mean, we don't know, but I find it like very, very um yeah, very refreshing, very exciting.
yeah, and very like coming back to this question, like that's the most hard question about in this industry. What's the future of creativity look like? So what I assume is like there's more non AI designers than designers are there in the world, and the people who are non designers want to have one single chat space where there's a lot of agents. One agent is good for marketing, one agent is good for filmmaking, and you just communicate it, and it will create a 1 minute video or 2 minute video, 5 minute video, um, with a top notch quality. And there will be some uh, do you imagine a future where you don't need to be like there will be no UI, just a language model, and you can ask it to create to produce a 5 minute video as well for big brands.
I mean, it can, but it, it really depends because what I guess the creative wants is for now, and the frustration that you can have is like purely control. So you can, it depends what type of work you want, and it depends what type of creatives, I mean, what type of work you do. So I'm taking like a couple of examples. If you are like just, you know, I would say someone that wants to do vibe creations. So it's like you just want to like experiment and do stuff. I mean, probably that would be feasible. Like you interact with a sort of like large language or sort of agent. You tell what you want, but then the system is going to give you like 1 or 2 minutes video or a couple of images or you know a couple of content,
True.
and you pick and choose what you want. However, if you're like a creative in an agency or maybe in a film, it's a different job because you really want to control everything. So he's like really more into the details. And sometimes, so you might want an UI that allows you to control like more elements. Um, and right now, it's sometimes the frustration that we might have with GenAI is like, oh, we want to tweak one element, or we, you know, sold one concept that was a very specific concept with a very specific, you know, uh, craft, and we want to reproduce that craft. So we want to finish and right now it might be complex. It's usually quite complex to just tweak a couple of elements but keep the rest. So I don't know how it's going to be like in a couple of years. However, I still think that for high professionals, they will want a UI that give them, the possibility to tweak and, you know, have a lot of control of all the elements and the details. So that's why right now the sort of like node-based or workflow system is very popular, because it gives you, a way to control all the elements and to tweak, some parameters. Um, so you have a lot of way to change, your workflow. However, I do believe that the way that it could evolve, it's right now, creatives is really focused on one task. So I take you one example. The creative is going to work on a workflow for like to get an output. So it's going to focus a lot on that. If you look at uh, the developer side, so like how like right now is also shifting on the tech side and on the developer side, because the models are becoming better and better at like, doing codes, developers and engineer are like changing away. So they multitasking, so they plan on one side and, interact with the models and plan what they want to build. And on the other side, they, they let the model like do a different feature and then move to a third side. So you see on the engineer side, they work with like multiple agents and terminal side. I tend to envision that on the creative side, that could happen. If we find a right, UI and way, maybe creative could work in parallel with the help of like different sort of agents that could build the workflow. Maybe they could, move from one task to another or one job to another. So they could work on a script on one side, work on, crafting, film on with another systems, while the other system is like finishing the job, and maybe move to a third, um, like a third job, which is, I want to create a mood board on something that I'm working. So they could parallelize the work. And it's like, instead of having it's like one creative that has like 20 people working at the same time with it. And I think it could be a future. I don't know if that will happen, but that's something that could be interesting. And it's just mimicking the same path that right now it's happening on the engineer side with those like AI coding assistants, where you have plenty of engineers right now, like they telling that they change the way they work. So they're doing less, manual coding, but they more like assigning job to different, agent. They let the agent run. While the agent run, they move to a different, let's say feature or stuff, and they having different. So it could be something that we could imagine for creatives as well. So it's more work that one single person can do at the same time.
And
Um,
like Perry, do you think that would be done in workflow? Do you think like this node base is the future? Do you think that the designers are jumping into this node base will be there for, they will be, like for the couple of years? That would be a Photoshop replica of.
I mean, right now, what I can tell is like, at least on our side, we have less and less people like touching Photoshops, and more like just working on with those AI systems, creating, I would say, content and visual. Um, that's what we see, because basically they can. I mean, Photoshop was used, at least here, a lot about like composing an image. So it's like bringing different components and then build one image, or um, uh, but then right now with the same GenAI models, you can have the same, you can build your final image without like being able to, compose all the stuff. So that's why we see less and less people going and using Photoshop. I would say the native Photoshops, systems, and I'm spending more and more time like, building images or building videos with those like GenAI system. But it's still a one single focus task, even if it's with a workflow system. Do I know? I mean, I don't know if like workflow will um, be used in the future. It really depends on, I think it really depends on the capabilities of the future like systems to have more control over the output. Meaning that if we have models in the future, whether it's like video models or image models, where you can really, they can really understand exactly what you want, and they can also change, couple of elements, but like the rest can remain the same. Maybe we won't really need like workflow, because workflow right now, it's one way for me, it's one way to compensate the fact that some, you know, still some of the models, you can't like, completely tweak everything. So that's why you have the node base, so you can like,
It's amazing.
change the parameters. But if in the future, like you have models that really understand what you want, and you can tell, which is in some sense the case. If you take like the latest, image model from Google, they are, or even from on the Chinese side, from the Quen one, they are super good as like tweaking just one aspect, because they also really can understand exactly when you prompt them, or when you like ask them to change one specific area of the image, they now like can pick up that and really understand. But I don't know. I mean, it's
It's
something that I
amazing insight. Yeah, to be very honest, it's
um
amazing insights. What you're saying is like the more once the models become more and more useful, and the agentic, the chat interface becoming more useful, the workflows will be less used because like, but like if the models does not provide that kind of control, the workflow will always be there, and it will always be solving that up. That's amazing insights. You guys, I've been just looking at, like McCann is recently hiring for a creative lead. Um, what you guys are looking for creative AI lead? Like what, like when we think about uh, like, can you tell me about like what exactly you guys are looking for that?
well, I mean, when we at the end of the day, whether we use technology or not, what we're doing is we're selling ideas for brands, um, ideas that can, solve the business problems and help like brands build their brands and potentially, sell more products. So that's our core business, and it will always remain the same. So when we hire creative leads, we're looking for people that have like the ability to, they have taste, they have, knowledge, a sense of craft. They understand, also some marketing, um, knowledge. So they know, um, and they understand, business challenges that, their client will have to help the client, overcome. And also they have, those sort of like capabilities to bring, new concepts, so merging stuff together, coming back with like ideas that are slightly, unusual. So that's what we're looking for in a lead. And more, it's true that if they have like, I would say hybrid capabilities, it's even better. So I give you an example. If you have a lead that is super creative, understand, that, but on top of that, it has the ability to shoot, but also do editing, or maybe now like uses like GenAI to like concept, it's even better. So I would say that we haven't really changed the way we hire people. So we still like looking for people that has taste or highly creative, very smart. But it's true that if now on top of that, you have a sort of like hybridity, so you have, skills um, that could be useful, like shooting, editing, knowing how to use technology, or maybe you you're a painter on the side, or you draw, or you stuff like this. It's even better, because I give you an example. If you are amazing at drawings, you can use your drawing skills, uh, and you can complement that with GenAI, and it's even more powerful. So, something that we could think of like very old-fashioned, because they would say, oh, drawing is not useful anymore. It can be super useful, because you can use your drawing to guide the models to get an output, so you can go faster. So I would say that those sort of skills, if you have it, and on top of that, you're super creative, because that's the baseline, that's the foundation of a creative lead. That's even better. So those are the people that we're looking for. And also we're looking for people sometimes, at least at McCann Paris, that are slightly unusual. So it means that maybe before they were fashion designers. So they're not coming exactly from the advertising industry. They can come from a different industry that also they were creative in a different industry. Or maybe in the past they were like maybe consultant, and they decided to change their career. Just to give you another example, our like ECDs, or our like lead when it comes to the creative direction at McCann Paris, he was trained as an engineer. So he had a background as an engineer, and then a long time ago he decided to change his career because he didn't want to do engineer stuff, and he like decided to train to become a creative. He's a painter, he's an artist, but on top of that, so he went to agency, did an internship, and then move up, learn, and then became, right now, after like a long career in advertising, became like very famous and well-known like executive director. So I just like give you an example that also sometimes we're also looking for people like this that might not have like the right, past where, you've done your career in advertising for 20 years, and you've done like the perfect, we're not looking for the perfect CVs. We're just looking for people that has like sort of a weird mixture and ingredients. And that's what we're looking for at some point.
It's amazing. To be very honest, yeah, to be very honest, like um, when I think about hiring a creative person in my team as well, I realize in the longer run, as the people who have been good in copywriting and storytelling are the great ones. People say storytelling and then copywriting is not a big tool, but I feel like if you're a great storyteller, you can be a great, you can, you can be a great visual prompter, or like AI creative designer, because it's all about this these raw tools and this natural backgrounds knowledge of different departments that makes you craft that thing that has not been possible before. So coming back to the question of like this large scale, you've been working with a lot of enterprise customers, um, and like, do you think, like I have a question, in ImagineArt right now, we are doing, we have this workflow. We can have this node-based structures, and we have amazing tool. But right now I'm thinking about more in terms of scaling it up. I'm thinking about it like, let's suppose if you're running a meta campaign, and you connect that agent, and you just ask that agent to create me a 10 winning assets, of my like last there will be around like 7 winning assets. Just create me a 10 variation of each of them, and that agent will just pick that, and try to variate it up, and uh he will just check it out, like, will this going to be like the generated output. He will also check it that the generated output will produce a quality will produce a good ROI or not. So do you imagine a future where your workflow is so powerful with agentic experience that you don't need to go to check to meta dashboard and try to say which asset is working. You just directly in the workflow you just say this asset is working, just create me 10 assets of that, create me 100 assets of that. Do you think that's the future look like?
It's a future that we would love to build. It can happen. It can happen only if you, and not only, but it can happen right now if you give your systems the context. So right now, I would say the main pain points that everyone is facing is the fact that some of the data about, your best performing assets on Meta, it's on Meta. So you need to extract those, like, dashboards, systems, and metrics and stuff, or you need to find a way to plug it. Then on the other side, you have your workflow node that sits on the platforms. And maybe you have another system somewhere that, will help you like do the ideations, um, the, the, the concepts and all that. So in order to to do what you describe, you need to have a system that either is being able to plug to the different sources. So your brain, as well as your human, but specifically your agent or your agentic system has, the right context. And that's for me the main like challenge, is having a system that can plug to different system, get the data and then potentially, help you build that, output. So it's definitely feasible as long as you have, as long as you break the silos of like, some of the data sits there somewhere. Some of the data is also on my, cloud, like as an agency. Some of the data is also on the client side, on their system as well. So how do you combine that and how do you get access easily? I think that's the sort of ultimate goal at some point to solve, but that's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah, that I think so. That would be very ideal for me as a business owner. I can run. Might be in the night. I will say, like just run 100 winning assets in the morning. I wake up, I find that 100 winning assets. I think that would be a like a paradise for me. So coming back to the question is like, when you specifically, like you're building for companies building AI creative tools. What do you think? What's the difference between the tools that are the building and what's the problems you're facing at the production level?
Well, at the production level, I mean, first of all, at production level, you have a sense of quality. So depending on like where you push your content, you need, higher resolutions. You need if you want to build like content for print or for outdoor campaigns, those massive billboards, you need to be able to, generate images or even like videos that has like high resolutions. So at some point you face, those issues of like upscaling, making sure it's, it works. But also on the production side, you face what I was describing before, is if we take like the process of creativity, you have a concept, you build some sort of mockups, you show and validate the mockups and the intention of your clients, and the clients say, "Oh, I want this, but plus some modification." You iterate, you modify, and then you land on something that is the client is confident that he wants to do, but it's still a mockup, meaning that you might need to change or tweak a couple of stuff, and the is not perfect. It's not exactly perfect, but the intention is there, and the clients like both the intention. Then you need to move to production, meaning that you need to finalize that. So now with like, if you produce with GenAI, those like steps are becoming a bit blurry, because sometimes you generate an image that is almost, production ready, but it's not exactly production ready. So I would say that that's what we mostly facing, is like the possibility to control everything and make sure that when we sell something or when the client's like is agreeing on a direction, we can be able to reproduce it with, better, um, I would say, resolutions, or with no artifacts that, can happen sometimes. And, that, maybe when you reproduce something with a product, it's exactly the product that, the client had, with the right labels, with, the right shape, with maybe, the right lightings and so forth. So that's the stuff that we're facing out. That's the difference between mock-upping or and like final productions specifically for assets that are not digital, that not going to live on digital. But let's say that you want to build a film that is going to be like used on TV or even on, you know, connected TV on out there on the print. The constraint in terms of what you need to deliver is higher. Um, so so that's where, you know, it's right now we have sometimes, you know, some struggles in order to you know, to achieve that, but we're getting there. I mean, the technology is like becoming every day better and better platforms that allows us to control workflows and stuff. It's we're getting there.
I 100% agree. I think so. Like, uh, right now, AI is in the face of, like it's like more of a mock-up stuff. But yeah, like I think so. It will be, I think so. It will not take so much time. 1 year or 2 years would be enough to have that kind of quality where you can have a one asset directly going to the production side. Yeah. So, uh, what's the one thing you wish, AI tool companies understood, uh, as like just putting you in that position?
um I mean, uh, probably they understood. I mean, right now is sometimes it's much more like a technical constraint, or, you know, is like figuring out some of the stuff. What I would say is right now, most of those like systems and specifically models, you have, you prompt them. So meaning that the main way of interacting with your models is language. And sometimes you also can input, you know, some reference, whether it's image reference, so forth. So that's mainly um, how you interact with your models. However, you realize that for creatives, you know, describing an image, it's quite, or describing an idea with just text, it's very complex.
Yeah, true.
Um, so being able to potentially, you know, I would say input a model with something that would be different from text, um, could be also a nice way. So we saw that, um, you know, one way to have like, you know, image as reference was good because for the, you know, you could have like more informations, but maybe, you know, being able to have 3D models as an input. So the models can really understand how, you know, the stuff should move would be a good, you know, good way. Uh, maybe there was some experiments where you had like real time, you know, and I think you had like some platforms that do that. And I think it's quite interesting where you draw and in real time, you know, the model can, you know, interpret. So you have an image and then you start to draw. It's also, you know, new interaction at some point that makes it like interesting. So all those experiments that, you know, let the creative, you know, um, be more in control.
Yeah, it's amazing talking to you, Pair, and really love your insights about the whole industry and whatever you think about it. And we're also launching a McCann enterprise. So yeah, like we've been talking to Unilever. Unilever is one of our client, and we're trying to move into this Europe market. I would love to have a catch up and love to have a more collaboration on this. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your amazing time. Okay, bye bye. Have a great day.